Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. I'm Jackie Cation. I am your host of the Dork Forest. You probably know the websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com. We're all over iTunes and whoever has downloaded it and repurposed it for whatever your needs. That's right. So feel free to review the show on iTunes. Feel free to email me, Jackie@JackieCation.com, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. Anyway, let's do the credits. Mike Rickbert composed and sang that song you just heard. He sang it with his wife, Sarah. He'll sing again his words to the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Patrick Brady is going to fix this audio, and Vilmos does my website. Okay. There are many ways to support the show. Let's talk about them. The easiest way is just to tell other people about the show and follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat @JackieCation and tell people, word of mouth. Another way to support the show financially, doesn't cost you anything, is the Amazon banner. On JackieCation.com, there's an Amazon banner under support the show. And on DorkForest.com, there's just an Amazon link that takes you to Amazon. And both take you to Amazon, you order like normal, and the show gets a little bit of a kickback. Doesn't cost you extra. It's just a way, if you order from Amazon, to help the show. More direct way of helping the show, you can give money to the show via PayPal. There's a PayPal button under the Support the Show page on JackieCation.com, and there's a PayPal button on DorkForest.com. You can donate directly. If you want to give monthly, I haven't made that easy. I don't have a monthly setup. I know that it's easy. I just don't have any time to do it. So you have to remember every month that you like the show and then give me money. So I'll use it wisely on audio cables and chocolate, whatever. Another way to support the show, if you don't like PayPal, is people have been Venmoing me money. I'll take it. That seems lovely. Jackie@JackieCation.com. It's just under Jackie Cation. So whatever. If you have listened to all 600 and whatever episodes of the Dork Forest and would like more Dork Forest, there are premium episodes, probably a dozen of them. And they are, in the last couple of years, if I do a live episode, it usually costs me some money. So I have been putting them up on Bandcamp, and they cost money. They cost $2 a pop. But if you go to thedorkforest.bandcamp.com, you can see those different shows. They're usually live episodes around the world. And there is also four stories on a sort of a handmade storytelling album that I made over there too. And those are just $1 each. So if you want to go to Bandcamp, you can do that as well. You can order merch on JackieCation.com. There are shirts and CDs and a DVD of my stand-up. There's the stand-up CDs, Circus People, It's Never Gonna Be Bread, This'll Make an Excellent Horcrux, and my brand new album, I Am Not the Hero of This Story. And they're all available as CDs on JackieCation.com. They're all available digitally on Amazon and iTunes, and you can just listen to them on Pandora and Spotify and whatever. So, but if you like hard copies, let me know if you want them signed or not. There's also a DVD of the Horcrux album, which is video. That's what a DVD is. And you can download that at comedyfilmnerds.com if you just like a download. Okay, there are shirts. There's my stand-up shirt, Spooky Reading Girl. There's also 2 Dork Forest t-shirts. So there's the Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirt, and there is a Dork Forest logo shirt. And all the shirts are made in the United States, union made, so they run a little big because they're made by Americans. Other than that, my stand-up is available on the website, on JackieCation.com. You can watch my Conan sets. You can watch a bunch of different stand-up sets. You can, and then you can see what my schedule's like. Enough of this. Let's get into the show. It's a really good one. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I'm in my living room, you guys, with Dan Cummins. You haven't been on the show.
A long time ago.
Forever.
Long time ago, like 2009 or something.
Yeah,
it was a call-in. It was a call-in like in 2009.
Yeah. So it's Cummins, right?
That's correct.
Dan Cummins. And you can see you open for Regan, right?
I do here and there.
And
yeah.
you're headlining at the Irvine Improv. This will be done. Because this is going out next week.
I headlined. It was great.
He's a headliner.
I had an amazing time.
I don't know if you guys know this. He headlines. he headlines. And but what you should know is that you have a a podcast called Time Suck. And so timesuckpodcast.com has all of it. All your links to Twitter and Instagram and whatever. And Timesuck Podcast is everything.
It's the handle on everything's easy.
Right. Yeah. And does it also have, like, I'm sure it has links to, like, your schedule and everything.
It does. It does. It just links back to my stand-up website, which I probably will even, if I don't get rid of, I will shrink.
Or just point it towards Timesuck. I bought FamilyPetAncestry.com.
Okay.
Because it made me laugh.
Yeah.
And so I pointed it at JackieCation.com. So whenever any banana head is out there looking
for family pet ancestry.
Yeah, to find out if their cats came over on the Mayflower.
Right.
They go right to JackieCation.com
awesome.
for my make fun of your pet material. Anyway, so Timesuck Podcast, that is... It's just trivia, right? I mean, it's just minutia, and you going down a rabbit hole.
But put into a narrative form, because it all came out of I had a podcast a couple years ago, and a couple of them actually, and they just never really stuck. They weren't what I was terribly passionate about, or maybe I was listening to people. Right. In the business telling me how to do it.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's hard.
And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that, Yeah. And it doesn't.
I lucked into this Dork Forest business.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. No, it's
it had a thing from the beginning, an idea.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I was trying to get on with a network or somewhere, and honestly, nobody wanted to even meet with me. I'm not, was not known in the podcast community, not really known in the alt scene, which has a lot of the podcast, networks, and so I just didn't even get a meeting. I got one. That's not true. And then
was it Al Madrigal and Bill Burr? Because I'm on All Things Comedy.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And those guys aren't super alt.
Right, exactly. Well, I only had one meeting with Sideshow, and they were so enthusiastic they forgot that I had a meeting. So I showed up and surprised them. Yeah, it was really so. I just reached this point a couple years ago where I'm like, you know what? If no one even cares, then like, why am I trying to look at this? Why sweat it? And I'm like, well, what do I already do? What do I already love?
Yes.
And since I was a little kid, my favorite thing, basically hobby wise, is just to learn random shit. It's like, it came out of when I was really young. I spent an inordinate amount of time with my great grandparents. Where
your great grandparents?
Yeah, most people don't even get to know their great grandparents.
I didn't have. I have no grandfathers.
Okay,
so
my family.
Let's cry.
They had kids young, and so
great grandparents.
My great grandparents were more traditionally like normal grandparents' age.
Okay.
Because of everyone having kids. Like, basically, like, my great-grandma...
Were they in the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire? What happened? How old were they?
Well, I happened to be from the lineage on that side of the firstborn, so that helped. It's kind of speed up the generation thing there.
Right.
And my great-grandma had my, grandma, her oldest, when she was... wait, what am I talking about? It's not even true. My grandma was her second, but it doesn't matter. She had her when she was like 19, 20.
Yep.
And then my grandma had my mom when she was 18, and then my mom had me when she was 19. So it's like it's sped things up.
I was going to say 17, and
keep
then
going.
Your kids,
and
15,
my kids. I had my kids when I was in the womb.
In the womb, just
they were already teenagers.
They were clones. You just decided to clone me right when I was born.
Yep, exactly.
And
but my great grandpa, he's an old Swede guy from Sweden, really thick accent, not a big talker. But the one thing we kind of bonded over is he liked to read National Geographic. He just and I grew up in this tiny town, obviously pre-internet.
What tiny town?
Riggins, Idaho, like 400 and some people.
Oh, Jesus.
It's right there. I can point to my arm. It's right to the heart.
You have a tattoo of Idaho.
Yeah.
On your arm.
Yeah. Yeah. And
what's that? Because you love it.
I do love it. I do love it.
Because there's a heart where that's
my little hometown, Little Riggins.
That's your little, what's the green thing at
That's
the
where
top?
I live now. That's the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where I'm now based. That's the Monopoly house.
That is adorable. I live in a Monopoly house. That's what I always say about this house.
Oh, that's awesome.
It looks just like
shape.
A house.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
It's just ticky-tacky tract house from 1951.
But it's adorable.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
And you can grow old and die in this house because it's all one floor.
Yep, it can be a nice death house.
Somebody asked me, I'm going to weed off.
Okay.
I was just in Ireland, and people kept asking me if I wanted to live in Ireland. And I was like, no, I don't. I love to visit everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm happy where I live. I don't need to move anywhere.
That's fantastic.
It's all working out.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Van Nuys is adorable.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. This is a
Anyway.
nice neighborhood.
So that's what, and
Yeah, and he had stuff all around the house, in a place where there's no real library to speak of, and there was one, but it was like almost more like a used bookstore than a proper library. I mean, there's
really small?
really small.
400 people, I suppose.
Yeah, it was just like somebody donated some books essentially next to City Hall, and it was
So
like
it might possibly have 4,000 books in it.
Maybe.
If everyone brought 10
Maybe.
books over.
Yeah.
And many of them Jack Reacher.
Right.
So whatever.
And so there's, this is pre-internet. We didn't even have cable there. So you couldn't get information very easily just about the rest of the world.
Right.
And so, but my great grandpa had this just abundance of all these National Geographics, years and years worth.
We
and
kept them all.
And I just started reading them at an early age. And I just became fascinated with all the stories of the world. And they had almanacs and the Book of World Records, and I kind of branched out from there. And then it just kind of stuck with me that, like, when I'm procrastinating, like when I'm trying to work on something like a bit or whatever, I'm on the computer. My go-to, I'm like, God, whatever happened to so-and-so? And then I zip over there, and then I don't want to leave. I just want to keep
45 minutes to an hour and a half later.
I want to keep going down the
wasn't
wormhole.
I writing something?
Yeah. And I thought, so basically the podcast, I thought like, well, what if I just turn my procrastination into my job? Like, what if I make that? And I love it. Now it's like I can justify doing all this ridiculous research.
Yeah, Andy, who you just met, is my fella, and his dad, when he was a kid, famously, in my mind, said to him, never work for a living, because eventually they'll pay you to do what you love to do anyway.
Okay.
And then mere moments later, Clyde said, that doesn't mean you don't need a job. So
the quote I had that was falsely attributed to, I believe, Eleanor Roosevelt, but I think it was Oscar Wilde actually. Follow your bliss.
Sexism. No, we don't know.
Follow your bliss is the one that somebody told me when I was, about a year out of college. And I didn't know what I wanted to do.
That feels like parallel thought.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Right. It could have been multiple people
the
that said
word
it.
bliss. Follow your bliss feels Neolithic. That feels like somebody.
But same thing. Same idea. Right.
Somebody who loves to draw, cave paintings.
Yeah.
And the other cave dwellers are like, what is that guy doing?
Right.
He's like,
right.
well, he just likes to paint on shit,
That's his
man.
bliss.
That's his thing. He's just a guy who likes to chip and paint on a wall. Leave him alone.
Right. He's doing this. He's following it.
Yeah, he's following his bliss, man.
He's indulging his passion. So that's what it came out of.
How many episodes you got? How long you been doing it?
I've been doing
Couple
it.
Years?
No, I just started last September, so almost a year.
So people could get in ground floor.
Yeah, and it really started, to kind of take off a little bit. Now it's this kind of community vibe where all of the topics are listener suggested. So I just keep a running document of things people write in. People send in all these, topics and stuff.
Oh, once it gets popular, that's going to get grim.
Oh no, I already have interns helping me out. So it's
you
nice.
got interns?
But like just people, all listeners where I'm just like, I think they would hear me talk about like, hey, sorry, I haven't got back to emails. I just haven't had time, because the research takes up a lot of time to do that. And then I have to write out the narrative, because I kind of write it out just so it's more structured in my head. And
so is it an hour?
Yeah, an hour and a half. I write out an hour and a half show every week. And it's like sometimes 2 in a week, where if it's a bonus episode.
Rangers, I love you for just listening to me meander around and not knowing. Though I'll tell you, the listeners to the Dork Forest, they, like myself, enjoy correcting people. And I love to get an email that says,
I get a lot of pronunciation corrections.
You're not right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good to know. Good to know. 'Cause there are buildings full of things I don't know.
I built a whole segment within the podcast about this called Time Sucker Updates, and I do corrections now at the end of episodes.
Do you?
Because mostly I've learned they've teased me a lot about my North Idaho dialect, but I am not good, and I'm a little bit of a mushmouth. Pronunciation is not my forte. It's not my strong suit.
Well, my brother Phil was on. I love him dearly, but he has done a lot of acid. And so he can, I forget words and say the wrong words all the time, but he can sometimes mispronounce words.
Well, okay.
Though he told me that, I mentioned that on a previous episode.
Right.
He said, that hurts my feelings, because I worked on that for my whole life. And I was like, Phil, I love you. It doesn't mean you aren't smart. It just means you got...
I work on it. Yeah, I work on it so hard too. I think I'm a little bit tongue tied, and I base that on my kids. They had like the pediatrician thought about like snipping their tongues because they're also tongue tied, and had to do like speech therapy a little bit. And so I
cutting their actual tongues,
the little line underneath your tongue. Like my tongue doesn't really go out. Like that's it.
Weird.
Yep.
Okay.
Because it's tied to my...
Seem judgmental. No, that's just fine. You and your body are adorable. It's all working out for you.
But it does, I think that it does, just physically affect pronunciation where I have to really focus. And then I just have an accent of sorts, too, from my little town, just a little regional dialect that, for whatever reason, I emphasize the wrong... Syllable.
Sure.
Continuously. And so that's the thing that they love to point. It's like, I feel like it's almost become... they want to find it like a weird Where's Waldo, like when's he gonna fuck it up, when's he gonna mess, when's he gonna ruin it, and then they're like, ha, it's Waukesha, not Waukesha.
Oh, there you go.
Wisconsin.
Sure. We got
that was Slender Man. I learned that.
Oh, so let's get into it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you have episodes about, because the list you gave me, it's Vlad the Impaler,
Yeah.
the origin of vampire mythology. Is there an episode of that?
Oh yeah, that one's already done. Yep.
Rasputin and the Fall of Imperialist Russia. Is that one
that's
done? Lisbeth Bathory, 16th century Hungarian serial killer.
Yeah, the
That one's
Hungarian
done?
Countess. Yeah, that's done. MK Ultra. I just
CIA mind control experiments.
that one. I just
one's coming
finished
out?
that one. That one actually comes out. It's already recorded. It comes out tomorrow. Well, it'll have come out just a few days prior to this.
Okay, so it'll come out the same week as this. So, and then Slender Man is the one you're working on now?
No, I've done Slender Man. The one I'm going to be working on going forward right now is actually Ku Klux Klan.
Okay, for
Yeah.
or against?
Against.
Gonna be against you guys. That joke was funny about a year and a half ago. No longer as funny. No longer as funny, you guys.
But
yeah. So why don't we, since there are full hours and a half about these things, let's not talk about any of those, because people should go to Time Suck Podcast and get into it, man.
Well, and there is a lot of stuff that I'll get in my head, but I won't necessarily fit in the narrative. It just seems extraneous or something. But like,
that's where this belongs. This is exactly where that goes.
Well, when you brought up your brother with the LSD, it's like MK Ultra is all about LSD.
Who is MK Ultra?
Project MK Ultra, and I'm going to sound like a conspiracy nut, but these are unsealed documents.
Are you?
I'm not. I research a lot of conspiracies, and no, I'm not. I will debunk probably more than I kind of reaffirm. There are some that I believe that some people might consider a little wackadoodle, but there's others that I'm like, no way.
2 episodes ago, Karen Rontowski talked
The
about
Mothman.
Yeah. Is that the one you listened to?
Yeah, I listened to that. Yeah.
I was just sitting there going, nope.
No,
and, But the thing about Dork Force, safe space.
Sure,
safe
sure.
space. You can totally be into the thing that I'm not into.
Well,
That's
I researched, like, it's funny because she mentioned, as you know, having been there, speaking to her, she mentioned Sasquatch very briefly as far as an interdimensional traveler, and that's a big theory with him, and it's and I researched Sasquatch for a previous episode too. And things like that, like the flat Earth, these kind of the paranormal, a lot of paranormal stuff.
moon landing.
Moon landing, I don't think was faked. I think it happened.
I think the Earth is really round, you guys.
Earth is very round. I have a T-shirt
round.
based on flat Earth, making fun of it.
Yeah.
But I will, I will go down certain rabbit holes where I'm like, maybe CIA keeps coming up in episodes I've done, like JFK assassination. That's my only 2-parter I did.
Right.
And that one, I honestly do think
there might be something there.
They had something to do with it.
Well, weird thing
but there was motive to me.
This is what I'll say about a CIA conspiracy.
Right.
They have a large budget. Because
Yeah.
my thing with conspiracies is they're usually very expensive. And
Right.
I always think about motive and
Right.
who's paying for it.
Yep.
And the CIA has money.
Exactly.
And I don't know. And the motive, the minds of men, I
Right.
cannot tell you.
Sure.
But
Well, the CIA, like, and I can't think of off the top of my head of what the act is called, but Truman in 1947 created the CIA. The CIA came out of the OSS.
Right.
Was the Office of Secret...
secret stuff.
Secret
Office of
stuff.
Secret stuff out of World
the Office
War
of Secret
II.
stuff. But it
You're
was the
familiar.
OSS, and it was out of World War II, absolutely. Because, the U.S. never had a peacetime intelligence agency prior to the CIS. And they formed the CIA with this act in the midst of the Cold War, the beginning of the Cold War, and it was, the Russians are doing this. Everybody
Everybody else has a secret.
Everybody else has intelligence.
Has a bunch of spies.
Right.
Let's have some spies.
Let's have
you
some
guys.
spies. They were very, very, very worried about the spread of communism. Extremely worried. And they did give the CIA autonomy to come up with, to plan and execute their own missions and never have to report. Actually, not supposed to report to the Oval Office.
Right.
Because they
For
wanted them to
plausible deniability.
Thank you. Exactly. Yeah. So when you create,
I've read a fair number of James Bond and Helen McCarthy books and sort of spy novels.
Yeah.
And I think that must be why they wrote them, because people came out of those things going, I could write fiction about things that are really happening.
Oh my God, it's insane. Like the things that they really. But you think about like.
That were allowed.
They were allowed to break laws internationally, encouraged to do whatever they needed to do to topple regimes they didn't think were friendly to the U.S. agendas.
Right.
That's why they were built.
What has come to bite us in the ass.
Right.
I mean,
they trained so many people over. They turned against us later.
Right. But I mean, the thing is if you're affecting elections in other countries,
yes.
which is the new kind of warfare that came out of the Cold War.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you are the recipient of someone messing with your election.
JFK or something, like wanted to cut their butt, wanted to get rid of them.
Yeah, because they were like, well, this is actually going to turn around and bite us in the ass.
Right.
And we're living it. We're living it right now.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
God
it's
knows
a
what's
weird
going on.
end of Empire.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Empires just ending with a whimper.
Okay.
Instead of an explosion.
Okay.
Because I don't play the violin. Oh. So, like the way the British Empire sort of ended at the end of World War II and into the Cold War, was relatively peaceful. I mean, it caused
like
a
hardcore
recession. It caused a hardcore recession, and there was a lot of problems, and there was a lot of recrimination and all this stuff. But it did not end in a flaming it didn't implode with riots and civil war. They had that hundreds of years ago. They've had several iterations of Empire.
Sure.
So. Disappointed. I never wanted to live. I love history. I never wanted to live through it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that's what I've learned. It's like I do all these like Vlad the Impaler and these Hungarian, like Elizabeth Bathory. You learn about like 16th century Hungary or 15th century Wallachia, and like Southeastern Europe. And whenever someone's like, "Oh man, this world's just going to hell, man. Things have never been so bad," read a book, my friend. They were much worse.
Right. Other people have gone through exactly this.
Yes.
And it doesn't, it ends.
Yeah.
But it's a shit show.
Oh, yeah.
For decades.
Yep. And peasants, back then, it was unbelievable. Like, there was always some asshole trying to take over their village that had nothing to do with those people, but they were trying to expand. They were just always in the middle of a horrific, bloody shitstorm. Always.
Yes, always.
They had no rights, like literally had no rights. They signed away their rights in Hungary because of an uprising that was squashed. Mm-hmm. And so they were there. Shit. But this ultra, this is the new, I was fascinated with, because I've only done LSD once.
Me too.
Freaked me out. I did a lot of it, and
you did a lot of it. I did
a lot of it.
Fourth of a hit.
I did 3. What was it?
3
4.5
tabs?
hits. I did 4.5 tabs.
Dude.
And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for 5 or 6 hours where I thought it's the most horrible thoughts.
Right.
Like, I was in Vegas. I did it. I was just crawling around like an animal trying to get back to my hotel.
Vegas is already
it's already gross.
It's already gross
on the strip.
And then you're like, my best friend is the guy slapping his hand with the strip show thing. Oh my gosh.
So I have. It was interesting to do the ultra thing, having at least done shrooms a few times, having hallucinated on acid, and to learn the origins of acid. So basically, what MK Ultra was is right after the CIA gets going, they have their various projects working on different things, and there was a parallel project, kind of like the Manhattan Project, not CIA, but the race to build bigger and better nuclear weapons.
Okay,
to beat the Russians.
Right.
Well, because we suspected Russia of really. Moving quickly on all these nuclear programs. So we needed to move faster.
That they don't have any money.
Right.
Because they're communists.
Right. And so there was also this line of reasoning where the CIA agents suspected Russians of having developed some kind of mind control substance. This was a real thing. This came out of the OSS actually looked into hypnosis to try and hypnotize someone to get them near Hitler, to then give him some kind of code word, like a Manchurian candidate kind of thing that would make him get rid of Hitler.
No wonder.
Yeah. So these thoughts are floating around. Like, this is the things that people are looking at.
Fiction becomes reality.
Right.
The best thing that ever happened was Star Trek. They'd go up to a door and it would automatically open.
Right.
On set, it was 2 people pulling the doors away.
Right.
In real life, there were scientists that were like, well, we can do that. Did you want that?
Wow.
And then all of a sudden you get to go into a grocery store with things in your hand.
That's amazing.
So, So this is fiction.
Right.
This is fiction turning into reality. Like people thinking, well, there must be mind control. Well, there has to be a way to do this.
These guys later would say in interviews, there was just this atmosphere of we can't discount anything, because if we don't look into crazy possibility number 173 and the Russians do, and they develop some supernatural kind of power, we're done. We're screwed.
Right.
And so they just started looking into, and what the main three things that they really wanted to figure out was selective amnesia. They wanted to be able to figure out how to wipe somebody's mind clean of being interrogated.
Okay.
Because how great would that be if you could interrogate somebody, then wipe their mind clean, and then have them just not remember who interrogated or even being interrogated.
Yep.
So that was an important thing to look for. A truth serum. They wanted the truth serum to give to people they had detained, subjects, to then extract whatever information
if they wanted.
Right, because they would get a hold of people. Yes, they would torture them. They would do different things, but you couldn't count for sure 100% on that information being accurate.
Right.
But if you could develop some magical truth serum, okay, then you could.
Right.
And then the ideal thing would be absolute mind control. They wanted to reprogram someone's brain and essentially make a super agent. Because one thing they're always worried
They weren't
about,
looking super soldier. They were looking super mind control.
for the mind, because if one of your agents gets, and again, I believe this, I don't even know if it's a conspiracy theory. Some people would call it that, because I understand the motive. It's like, that's practical. If one of your CIA agents gets, is over in East Berlin, gets captured, how great would it be if you could know for sure they would not give up any information under interrogation, because they're programmed not to do so, like a hardwired level.
Yes.
And then also, how great would it be to capture a Russian spy, reprogram them to be a double agent, and go back. And then also, if that person could get in the Kremlin and get close to like Stalin or whoever, with some code that could be hypnotically programmed in their brain, turn into an assassin, and just do, but they were really looking at this stuff,
right?
And they're experimenting on everything. They're getting people like North Korean POWs, and they're giving them, like, injecting them with various chemical concoctions, and then question them, trying to get the truth serum going,
right?
And then they're like, well, okay, that's not working. So then
that's charming.
They go to all these Harvard and other universities, and and they basically fund programs secretly to have these professors test things out on volunteers.
Yes.
So they can study it that way.
Who hasn't volunteered in college to be part of a test? Sure, I'll take the thing.
Yeah. One famous person that came out, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, was part of those early Harvard trials.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was not with LSD, but he was had his mind messed with a bunch. Timothy Leary, the big LSD guru of the 60s, he was around that stuff with Harvard and different things, prior. So it's like the CIA did introduce acid, and I'll explain.
It's kind of awesome that they went to Harvard instead of going to like a community college.
Right. Oh, well, they kind of ran the gamut. Later, they would do some very seedy things.
Remember, there was in southeastern United States, there was a sterilization project with the Native Americans.
Yes.
And you're just like, okay, you don't get to be in charge of shit.
Right, I know. Yeah. No.
I mean, there's just nightmare stuff that happens because of all of this.
Yes.
Like, it leads from and I love science fiction.
Right.
And I love fantasy, and I love orcs and trolls and dragons and swords. But it's sort of weird, like, because anybody can write anything, right?
Right. Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Reddit is proof that if you are a horrible person, you can find 8 other people to hang out with.
Sure.
And start a club.
Yeah.
But Andy, I'm going to tell a story. So you want to make a note to where you are when that?
Oh no, I remember.
Good.
Yeah.
Because I was going to tell you a story. He just went to Gen Con.
Okay.
Which is the best 4 days in gaming.
Okay.
And it's a board game, RPG gaming, tabletop gaming, 80,000 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Go to Indianapolis and play a bunch of board games. And
awesome.
His buddy, Barrick, ran a superhero RPG game where he took all of the characters, a DC Marvel crossover.
Okay.
So it was Power Man, Power Girl, Wonder Woman, Wonder Man, and Shazam, which was Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel.
Okay.
So, and he switched their genders, and he switched their costumes, and he put them all together in a big mashup of a story.
Okay.
And in the course of the paperwork that he handed out to play this game, you find out that all 3 of the Marvels, and Wonders, the women were all at some point in I think Golden Age, Silver Age, or whatever in the history of comic books.
Yeah.
All 3 of these women characters who either have Wonder or Marvel in their name,
sure,
were raped by a supervillain, and impregnated with a clone of themselves. And then they had the birth almost like Immortus did it to Captain Marvel, I think it was.
Okay.
She because he's Immortus, he's a time travel crazy guy, right?
Okay.
So she has the baby in like a week and a half. And then that baby is a supervillain and she has to kill it.
God.
And then they mind wipe her.
Okay.
So all three, both DC and Marvel, over the last 50 years, 3 different women have been raped by supervillain, have had those guys' babies, had to kill those babies. All 3 of them had to kill them.
That's a dark plot. Yeah.
Super dark, weird, weird.
Yeah.
3 different writers.
Right.
Where you're like, what is happening? Banana heads, just crazy fucks.
Right.
And like, why? And then had to forget about it. And then they made them completely forget about it. They're like, maybe that wasn't a great idea. All right, never mind. And it was essentially just some 12-year-old thinking the worst thought in the world.
Well, yeah. If you follow that,
but it was
path.
written by a 42-year-old dude.
Right.
So that's unfortunate.
But I'm sure possibly maybe under the same thought of like, well, it's a villain. Villains are bad. There's nothing out of the that it's too immoral for them to do. So that's I'm sure like if you just follow that logic, you're like, well, they're going to be horrible. They're going to have to do some horrible things. But it is that is a weird twist to have,
and parallel weird thought.
To have the mom have to kill their own rape child.
Right. It's like, first of all, we're raping you. Second of all, you're having the baby that is the person who raped you. And so you somehow revenge porny kind of kill that baby. And then we're like, that's weird. That'll probably haunt you. Let's get rid of that thought.
I bet they all 3 ended up being the same though, because it is the same logic. Like if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, what's the fucking worst thing? What's the along the lines of rape? Okay, so let's go with the rape angle. What's the worst thing? Okay, next worst thing is you got to have the baby, but then you're gonna love the baby because it is a baby. It's not the baby's fault.
It's your baby.
It's your baby. But then you're gonna fucking kill the baby. It's like they're just. Well, how can we twist it into the worst spot?
It's like it is proof to me that comic books can be about anything.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And you're just like, I don't know that they should be entirely about. I mean, it's like, but they get to be. It's like stand-up comedy.
Exactly.
It can be about anything.
I know, and that's what. And I imagine you probably are in the same boat. Where my thought on that is, I would never want to stop anyone from going to the worst place mentally imaginable.
Right.
I'm not interested in always
I don't
observing
need to watch it.
I don't need to be a fan.
And
but
here's what would be great is if it had a really great punchline. Instead of just the topic.
Just horrific statements.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Who often has who almost always has a horrific topic, but often has a great punchline to go with it, is Mr. James Inman.
Oh yeah,
you know Jim Inman.
I know of him. I've never actually met him, but I've known of him since I started because I started in the Northwest.
Oh, there you go.
And he was in Seattle. I know he's Kansas City,
right?
But he was Seattle for a while around the time. Yes.
He's essentially a fucked up version of Doug Stanhope.
That's saying something. I love a fucked up version of Doug Stanhope, who usually is the person like, Doug Stanhope is like a fucked up version of so and so, and then to take it that extra spot.
Yeah, just one more. One more level.
Right. That's hilarious.
I used to before he had kids, I was like, and you know who the cleaned up version of Doug Stanhope? Because I love to do that. That's one of my favorite games.
Who's the cleaned up version?
Augie Smith.
Oh, funny. Yeah, well, he's another guy I've known forever from the Northwest. Yeah.
Because it goes Augie Smith, Doug Stanhope, James Inman in my head. And but then I also go Michael Keaton, Judge Reinhold, Steve Guttenberg.
Oh, okay. Okay. Michael Keaton being the best actor.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And sometimes I flip Judge Reinhold and Steve Guttenberg.
Depending on the time, yeah. Okay.
You never know. And then I go Dabney Coleman and Gene Hackman.
Okay. I like these.
Dabney Coleman is the poor man's Gene Hackman, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I don't know that either. I don't know that any of those 7 gentlemen are pleased by that analogy.
Right.
Do they even want to be mentioned?
I don't know of anyone who would be like, I love it when I'm referred to as the poor man's version of blank. I don't know that
nobody or the rich man
on their own bio.
Yeah,
I'm the poor man's version.
Right. My brother once, one of my brothers, my brother Russ, not my brother Phil, said to me once, he's like, "You're kind of like Thelma Ritter," and I was like, "Why?" First of all, No.
Right.
Second of all, that's not a bad thing. If I could he's like, would you ever want Thelma Ritter's career? And Thelma Ritter.
I don't know Thelma Ritter.
Thelma Ritter was a character actress.
Okay.
She played did you ever see Miracle on 34th Street?
Yes.
The original, obviously,
Yes.
with Natalie
Yes.
Wood. She played in Line for Santa.
Okay.
She played the little boy who wanted the fire truck that she couldn't find. She played the mom. She couldn't find the
God.
fire truck. Anyway, she was in
Yeah.
a lot of movies where she played the drunk housemaid of Doris Day. In Doris Day Rock Hudson movies.
I feel like her face is right in the periphery.
She's super pointy, and
I think I know who you're talking
funny.
about. I never knew the name.
In It's a Wonderful Life,
Right.
she was the one who wanted $11.50 on the bank run.
Yeah, I have a vague recollection of this face. But I never knew.
She always
name.
looked 40.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
even
yeah,
when she was
yeah.
60, she looked 40.
Right,
But even when
right.
she was 25,
She looked. Yeah.
it was 40.
One of those faces.
Yeah, and so
Oh my God.
Russ Cation was like, "Would you ever want Thelma Ritter's career?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want? She was in 100 movies.
Yeah.
She got to hang out with Rock Hudson and
Right.
Cary Grant and Doris
Make a great
Day.
living.
Yeah.
Been in all those movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, so I do remember.
I have weeded off completely.
No, but
Where
I remember
were we? Go.
we were back about how like the LSD was going to get into the States.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about that, those people following kind of dark logic to its end, or we were kind of discussing that. Well, the CIA initially they were doing experiments. Kind of, I mean, it's still ethically not good, like on POW stuff. But then they're like, okay, well now let's get some volunteers. By the end, they would just get to just doing things to unwitting people, U.S. citizens and stuff.
Okay.
But LSD comes out of what I was talking before, out of this exploration to try and find some kind of mind control drug.
Yeah.
And then LSD was actually invented in Switzerland in 1947 by accident. It was a Swiss chemist working for a pharmaceutical company, Albert Hoffman, I believe is his name. And he was working on, they were studying the ergot fungus that was, you ever heard of St. Anthony's fire?
No.
Okay, in medieval times, basically there's this fungus that can get into rye, get into grains.
Okay.
And just kind of corrupt this food source. People obviously ate a lot of bread back in the medieval times. And so what it does, it's a horrible, the long-term effects of ergot poisoning are really, really bad. And they can kind of manifest along two lines usually. One is along gangrenous lines. Literally, they start making your flesh rot.
Oh, weird.
And attack your nervous system, where you can have spasms and convulsions and seizures. And they can also create powerful hallucinations.
Okay.
And so there was episodes of entire towns going insane in medieval Europe. One was in Germany, and I can't remember the year, but there's this episodes where and it got this name St. Anthony's Fire because of the monastic, the monks, the monastic order that tried to take care of these victims, but they never knew what it was. And then kind of like the alchemists.
They never knew what it was.
They didn't know what was.
It took forever to figure out that it was this weird fungus that was infecting grain because you couldn't
Salem witch
tell.
trials. They think it could have been that. They could have been because historians have traced scarcity of rye to a much higher incidence of witch accusations, because when there's not as much rye,
I may never eat rye bread again.
Well, when there's not as much rye, you're more likely to kind of eat some like shady looking rye. Be like, that looks a little moldy or whatever, but yeah, I'm hungry and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And so, but folk kind of doctors, alchemists and stuff like that, they realize that a small amount of it could be helpful in childbirth. It could kind of stem bleeding. It had other kind of benefits. So anyway, this pharmaceutical company is studying it along those lines.
Okay.
For kind of like childbirth medicine.
In the 40s.
Yeah, in the 40s, exactly. And then this guy, he's trying all kinds of, he found out that this lysergic acid was the component, the chemical little component that allowed it to be medicine. Like he traced it to that. And then he's pairing it with different things to try and figure out what other uses they may have for it. He's looking for, I believe, some kind of respiratory medicine. And he paired it with this D, which is, I think, diethylamide. I can't remember off the top of my head. Diethylamide, I think, is the right word. Some crazy science word.
Right.
And
sure.
And initially doesn't think it works, but he did have this weird moment with it where he after handling the very first batch of LSD, he basically started to hallucinate and
tripped his
balls off. But no one knows what tripping is,
right?
So he just thought it might have been the chloroform he was using it with, and he kind of just lets it go.
Yeah,
but it sticks with him. He comes back. As it will. And a couple years later, 1947, he comes back to it. And he's like, "There's something there. There's something with that LSD." He's like, "I want to find out what that was." And he does eventually identify that it a little bit got into his skin, and that's what. And so then he starts testing himself, starts dosing himself, and he initially dosed it with like 1/1000th of what you would give a similar dose of another kind of medicine.
Okay.
Like such a small amount because he didn't want to poison himself. He didn't know if it was lethal, but he didn't think he would feel anything. And I guess the amount he gave himself was still like 4 or 5 times a normal tab today.
Oof.
Because it's extremely potent.
Yeah.
And he tripped big time this next time.
6 hours.
Yeah, like he thinks he's going insane. He has
His
to have somebody
spine
take
is
him home.
melting. Yeah.
He doesn't recognize his neighbor because her face is a witch face and people are trying to kill him, paranoia. But then he also has beautiful, color experiences with color and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, they start trying to figure out what is this thing? What is, and start, doing more experiments with it. He starts taking more trips around some colleagues and things.
Yeah.
Eventually, it makes it to the States. Another, a Viennese doctor ends up doing a presentation on it in Boston in like 1949. Mm-hmm. And eventually, the CIA hears of this because they're just getting going with Project MK Ultra gets going in the early 50s, and they're like, "What is this stuff?" And maybe they think that maybe they could give LSD to somebody, and when their mind is in some other world, they can reprogram it. They can like reprogram that person's brain and maybe finally have their mind control thing. So it fascinates them enough where it becomes, because it's the most powerful hallucinogen they've come across.
Yeah.
And they have all these interesting theories on what else they could do with it. And the one that stuck with me, I think this is amazing actually. They figured out that like a suitcase full of pure LSD would be enough LSD at that time in the early 50s to make the entire nation trip. And so they come up with this idea like, what if we got a huge amount of it and put it in a city's water supply? Like of another country. It's like,
wait, they really were like,
they didn't do
another
it.
country.
They didn't do it. Yeah, but they thought like, what a great military weapon. You're trying to take over some city, have the entire city trip before anybody knows what tripping is.
Scarecrow.
Oh, yes. Scarecrow. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like make people just lose their minds.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I bet Scarecrow was totally inspired by this stuff.
Yeah.
So they come up with that. And then they also start like wanting to do individual experiments.
Yes.
And it's hilarious to me looking back. Initially, they start doing it themselves. So initially, ultra agents are taking acid and documenting like, how do I feel? All that kind of stuff. Then they're like, well, God, and they're having professors on like Harvard and stuff get volunteers and give those volunteers LSD and monitor what it does on them.
Yeah.
But then they realized if we're going to mimic, and this is when it starts to get really shady, really, really shady ethically, if we're going to mimic how we would use this in the real world, we got to give it to people who don't know they've been given it, which is horrific to do to somebody.
Oh my God.
So
it's the roofie of the 1950s.
Right.
Congratulations, CIA.
Initially, they start doing it, which I think is it's fucked up but also hilarious, to coworkers. So they'll just spike a coworker's drink with LSD, and that person will just lose their shit. But at least they kind of are aware of the program.
Yeah.
And then one of their main blunders that actually came back to haunt them in the form of a lawsuit that Gerald Ford, President Ford, later apologized about, and gave the widow some money, and actually got this guy to write the book, The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, John Marks, who read the book or wrote the book that I kind of based most of my research on. They went on the initial ultra agents went on like a weekend kind of retreat with members of a similar organization like the Army's, I believe, their intelligence office.
Okay.
They were kind of working on some projects together, but these people didn't know about LSD yet, didn't know about ultra. And they spiked the alcohol at the party, at the retreat, with acid. And one of these guys, I believe his name is Frank Olson, Dr. Frank Olson, if I'm remembering this right, loses his fucking mind. Like
a medical doctor?
Yeah, some army doctor. Yeah. And he freaks out.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's happened to him. He's tripping like crazy. It takes them hours to find this guy. They find him by the side of the road, cowered down, afraid that monsters are trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And basically, he doesn't come down. He
never comes down.
He stops hallucinating, but his feelings of persecution and paranoia start to intensify to the point that like he
goes mad.
He goes mad. His wife notices. Obviously, he's acting like crazy at home. They want to take him to New York to have him observed by a CIA, whatever certified or a psychiatrist. The night before they're supposed to take him to a sanitarium and have him kind of evaluated for a while, he runs and throws himself through a window on a 10th floor New York City hotel and smashes and dies on the street below. Whoa. And they tried to cover it up. They tried to act like it wasn't. And that was one of the things that exposed kind of ultra later. There were
Okay.
Senate hearings in the 70s, and this was like a major focus of it. It's like
Right.
the ethics, but it doesn't stop them. They started doing the craziest stuff. They opened up a safe house.
It doesn't stop them. Of
No,
course it doesn't.
Of course not. They opened up a safe house in New York
Them and their
City.
collateral damage.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And they talk about that. It was very much an atmosphere of the end will justify the means.
Yeah.
You know, if we can get this to work, whatever we have to do, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
They open up a safe house in Telegraph Hill in San Francisco.
Okay.
And they would have like these see-through mirrors, and they would observe like basically like criminal informants. They had these safe houses. They started working with law enforcement.
Yeah.
Law enforcement brings in one of their
Snitches.
snitches. Thank you. Yeah, snitches. And then the officer would spike that person's drink with LSD and never tell them.
Oh my God.
And then
It's just a sign of the end of democracy and the Republic dream, the dream of the Republic.
So many things.
As soon, with the creation of the CIA in 1947?
1947.
Yeah,
I think it was a National Securities Act. Yeah.
Oh, crying out loud.
But it's just fascinating. All this stuff. I mean, I really could just talk about it for days. But it is just. It's interesting when you really research this stuff, and there's an element of society out there that whenever you bring up anything that shows our government acting in a very secretive, nefarious, unethical way, no, we wouldn't. No, I don't know where you read that, but come on. What do you know? This stuff has happened,
right?
You know, and it's like that's why
they've had to admit it.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's different to speculate that 9/11 didn't happen,
right? Which I'll be looking into. I'll be looking into that one in a month.
You gonna look into that?
Yeah, I had a lot of requests, and
you're alone in wanting to do that of the two of us. So congratulations, good for you.
It's been requested so much. I feel like I'm following the will of the listeners. Yeah,
Fair enough.
Where I'm like, I'm not saying that I'll look into it and be like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
but I'm curious,
right, to see what the journey is. It's because I always think there's like automatic doors.
Right.
There are so many great things that come out of science fiction.
Yeah.
Why you got to go be the horrible thing? Why you got to look for that?
I know.
But you know, one of my favorite, like nobody's working on a uterine replicator. Nobody's working on replacing the womb with a can that you can grow a baby in, so that mortality rates can go down, and maybe you can genetically modified so that sickle cell anemia doesn't exist anymore.
I know. There's so many good uses, but I will say I do understand on a unemotional logic basis. If you truly believe that like in the Cold War, for example, that this other country that is going to be a far worse way of life than what's going on in your country. If you truly think they are on the road to discovering that they're evil, that they're discovering something that could, tip the balance of power so they can take over everything.
Yeah.
Is there that argument that you would then be foolish not to pursue it yourself? Because that's the argument, they make.
Cause the reason to research it is because of nationalism and because you believe your way of life is better than others, and you fear that it would not be. And there are a million stories of Soviets coming over to the United States, and one of my favorite ones I heard in high school which was in the late 70s, early 80s, of course, is they had a guy come visit South Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the factory town where I am from, and the factory that employed probably 65 to 80% of the people in town was called Bucyrus Erie, and it made strip mining equipment and also reclamation equipment, because create your own need, you guys. Anyway, so it is now a Caterpillar plant. It makes Caterpillar tractors and earth moving. It makes strip mining equipment. But it employs a lot less people because most of those jobs moved away. In its heyday, which was in the 60s, somebody came from the Soviet Union and to visit and look at the factory and just check it out. It was supposed to be some sort of goodwill kind of thing. And reputedly, the guy said there was no reason to park all of those cars in the parking lot to pretend that everybody has a car. In 1972.
Wow.
When everybody in the United States, of course, had a car.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
there was none of that.
Wow.
So, I mean, the illusion that our life was better than the Soviet life wasn't entirely inaccurate.
Right.
I mean, we've been sitting in a gravy boat for 55 years, soaking up some serious gravy.
Oh, I just did the North Korea episode where it's like, without a doubt, the quality of life there for not just the average citizen, but almost every citizen is objectively horrific.
Yeah.
Like it is a terrible, terrible regime.
Yeah.
Running that. So it's like, if we use them, it's like, well, what if North Korea was much more powerful,
right.
Much more broad, and it looked like they were going to start pushing their way into the Americas, and it looked like they were on the path of creating some horrible weapon,
right?
That could decimate us. We would kind of feel, I'm sure, a lot of pressure to like, no, we got to come up with that first,
right?
To get them, which is sad. It's terrible for humanity in general because eventually, some wackadoodle.
Yeah,
is going to unleash one of these horrific weapons.
Right, because we have access to, and there are supposedly all over the old Soviet Union just silos full of nukes.
My God, yeah,
that are just sitting around. And it's
waiting for a kid with a BB gun.
Here's the great thing about reading a book.
Yeah,
is that history is cyclical.
Yeah,
there's nothing to be done about it, and what you got to do is you got to address the thing in front of you.
Right.
Live your life. Try to be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
And try to be the best person you could be.
Yep.
And not think about the future. Remember that.
But also make a bunker. Also live in a bunker.
Terminator 2. I always think about Terminator 2 when Linda Hamilton is she's looking at the kid playing on the playground.
Yeah.
And all she can see is the destruction. And you're like,
oh yeah, she's wrecked in that movie.
You can't live like that. You can't do it.
Right.
You don't know.
I know. You can't. Yeah.
So, but build a bunker. I'd like to go quick.
You just live in your bunker and you just enjoy your dry goods as best you can.
Exactly. Heck?
You make sure your ammo is fresh and up
dry,
to date.
Sure.
Right. Dry.
You got dry
you make sure
ammo.
Your grains and your rice are not getting weevils and shit in them, and you just enjoy it.
Right. I do a weird thing where I have a little too much cash. Please don't rob me.
Okay.
I have, but I just because of my grandmother was like, you got to keep cash around. I was like, how long is it going to be good for? Is it mostly just going to be good for to light fires eventually? Which is I'm reading this book right now by what the heck is it called? Like The Fifth Season is what it's called by N.K. Jemisin, Jemisin, and it is a fantasy book.
Okay.
She won the Hugo, and it's a trilogy.
Yeah. Okay.
And it is a dark book of post. It's sort of about people have superpowers,
dystopian.
And it's dystopian, but it's a people can control the elements to some extent. It's sort of Mistborn. Did you ever read that?
No.
Brandon Sanderson. He's from Idaho, I think.
Is he really?
Yeah, it's what I call the Mormon science fiction program. It's Orson Scott Card started the writing group for young Mormon writers.
Oh, cool!
And it has created some amazing science fiction and fantasy writers out of it.
Well, I know enough about Mormonism to understand the link with fantasy.
Well, I mean, we can mock, but
no, I'm not even in a mocking way, but but truly, like I dated a Mormon girl, my first real girlfriend, and they believe in this, it's obviously related to Christianity. They consider themselves to be Christians. I'm not religious, so I'm not judging if they're Christian or not, but they believe.
It's not your call.
Not my call.
Right.
Not my call.
You don't even have a horse in that race.
Exactly. I don't have a horse in that race. But they believe that they can become gods. That's part of their thing.
Right. They get their own planet.
Right. They get their own planet, which is, I'm just saying that would be.
That's conducive to
that's very
creating
conducive to
science
world
fiction
building
and world building.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's super conducive to world building.
Right.
And Brandon Sanderson's worlds are pretty great.
Cool.
Elantris is one of my favorite books. If I think about like it's because it's a one-off.
Okay,
The great thing about Elantris is it's just one book.
They're not big, long.
And then it's not a trilogy that he hasn't finished.
Right.
So, Patrick Rothfuss, I'm talking to you. Anyway. He's not listening.
You don't know.
I met him. He's on that Joko cruise that I did, the nerd cruise where you go on a nerd. He's on it again this year. I'm doing it.
That's awesome.
Jonathan Colton is a sort of a nerd musician, sort of like if I don't know that he will appreciate this analogy either, but
he's a poor man's
exactly. Where he's like if Weird Al, and they might be giants.
Yep,
we're one guy.
Okay,
and so it's sort of like that because they aren't parodies,
right?
But
they're original songs.
He wrote the final song for the video game Portal.
I haven't played. I'm so behind on games.
Yeah,
but
and that one's I never finished it.
Okay,
it's my problem with console games is you have to commit to 14 hours to learn how to use the joystick.
Yeah. I have a PS4, but
I used to care.
Yeah.
You have kids that play them?
I have kids, and I justify games now. Like I've never been able to casually play video games. I played it my entire childhood. My early
productivity
adults.
down.
Oh, gone. Just gone. I've given away multiple systems because it's the closest I've ever felt to being an addict.
Yeah.
Is with games. Never. I've messed around with experiment with different drugs.
Right. Booze.
Never. Yeah. Booze, weed, coke,
food,
stuff like that. Never had a feeling ever of like needing to do it more and more and more. But games, especially like RPGs.
Yeah. Were you Link, Zelda and
Zelda and all that, and then like Warcraft was the one. Like a lot of people.
There you go.
I had to get rid of it. One of the saddest moments of being an adult for me was I got with my ex-wife. Mm-hmm. I was pretty young. I was like 24, 25, and I got real into it, and to the point that I was just getting into comedy, and so. Now I feel like there's plenty for me to do in comedy. It's like I know there's always something I could be working on. Back then there was a little bit of like I don't know. I hadn't worked the muscle enough to like be able to write for very long or know what I was. At least that's how I justified it.
Yeah,
and I wasn't working.
But you had two things. Was it Warcraft and stand up?
Pretty much,
and so
and
marriage,
Warcraft 1 and marriage.
And,
but I would. She had a real job.
Okay,
I shouldn't say real. Disparage myself. She had a 9-to-5 job. She.
I call it real. Andy has a real job.
Okay, so she would go do that, and then I would just say like, yeah, I want to be writing and doing some stuff. And then I would be like, okay, I'm going to play Warcraft until 11 a.m. But then I'm going to write for the rest of the afternoon. And that suddenly became just the whole day I was just playing Warcraft and not writing at all. And then it got so bad. This is the sad where it starts to get real sad. I would at night I would lay in bed and wait until my wife thought until I realized she was asleep. I would pretend to be asleep.
Yep.
Wait till she was asleep. Sneak out of bed.
Oh yeah.
Play through the night.
Yeah.
And then pretend to be asleep when she's getting ready in the morning. The second she leaves, get up and play again. And I remember one day, this is when I hit rock bottom. I remember I didn't even bother to put on clothes. I'm completely naked, hadn't brushed my teeth, showered, nothing, just a gross dude, a naked butt on a chair, playing Warcraft. And I'm like, okay, until noon, but then that's it. And I kept pushing the time back.
Yeah.
She gets home around 5:30. Pretty soon it's 5 o'clock. I still have done nothing but like just disgustingly ate like lunch meat out of a bag, sitting at my chair. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to hop in the shower in 5 minutes. Pretty soon, rattling at the door, the key is in there. I pop up, I grab pants, only pants, and throw on pants. And now I just look like a lunatic. Like I'm a dirty man wearing only pants, standing in the bedroom. And she goes, what are you doing?
What happened?
And I actually thought for a second, this isn't just a joke. I thought about telling her that I had been jerking off.
Yeah.
Because that seemed less pathetic than the truth.
Right. It is less pathetic.
It is less pathetic than the truth.
Because you know what? You can't jerk off for 14 to 27 hours.
Right.
You cannot masturbate that long.
That was when I stopped playing that game. And then later I got into like PSP and then I gave it to somebody. I just have never been able to casually play.
And that's why I didn't start. Andy worked at Sony PlayStation.
Oh, cool.
That was so, right. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And so he would bring home, I remember I was trying to play Prince of Persia, Sands of Time.
Okay, yeah.
It's one of the great games. And he was backseat video game playing. You know, like when it's usually a child who's sitting behind you going,
right.
You're not. You're not. And,
not a
and
designer.
He's a grown-up man. And so he knew better than
Sure.
you're not, you gotta.
Sure.
And he didn't do the thing that children do, which is give me the remote, I'll do this part for you. Until eventually I just said, why don't you just do this part for me? And because I always played uprights. And my revelatory moment was in college when I realized that I was blowing my entire student loans on video games.
Yeah.
And I met a guy who had. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm done for a second.
You saw the ghost of Christmas future.
Yes, I did indeed.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm done. But right now I'm actually, and I've been playing the same, like I play games on my iPhone and iPad and then the criminal case I've been playing for 5 years. I have given them dime none. But I would buy a t-shirt that had a Grimsboro Police Department t-shirt in a million. I would totally buy that shirt.
Yeah.
But about, I would say 14 days ago, maybe less, I was introduced to a new game, which is just a Bejeweled. It's like, the Match 3. Yep. It's one, I've been playing Frozen's Bejeweled, the movie.
Yep.
This thing is a Bejeweled game, but also a versus game. And it goes so deep into the long boxes of Marvel comics.
Oh, so it's like crack for you?
I am on fucking board.
Okay.
It is. I have never thought about spending money on something. It's called Marvel Puzzle Quest, and
Right.
it was free because it's got in-game purchasing. And I wake up and I play it. Andy
Yeah.
goes to sleep and I play it. And it's a little bit of that. It's not that bad. I bathe and I have I work.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
but it is. But I know better than to get into because the PS3 died probably 5-6 months ago.
Okay.
And we were like, should we get a PS4? And we did not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're just, if you have like a trust fund and you just never have to worry about money, then why not?
Well, and I thought about getting a Switch because you can take it with you and stuff. And I love Zelda. I genuinely do like those Zelda games. I like Zelda and I like Final Fantasy Legend. But whatever.
Yeah,
I don't need to.
Right.
It's fine.
I know.
So hey, we're close to being in an hour, my friend. So let's plug. First of all, Dan Cummins is who I'm with. Are you working next week? The week
I
that
am.
this comes out? Where are you?
I'll be in Omaha
Oh, you're doing Omaha.
at the Funny Bone in Omaha.
There you go.
Yeah.
Funny Bone in Omaha. If you are in Nebraska, knock yourselves out, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen. Timesuckpodcast.com is
Yes.
got links to everything, Dan Cummings. And what are you reading? What are you reading right now?
Gosh, you
I
know
like
what?
to ask.
I just finished that book just the other day, The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, and so I'm in the middle of I'm on book 13 of The Walking Dead. I guess that would be the book I'm on right now. I'm halfway through it. I've been way behind though because with all the research
Just
I've been
graphic novels.
yeah. Like my favorite series is Preacher. I think I read that one twice. I
Yeah.
really like it, but
Garth Ennis is great.
he's dark.
But
He's dark and crazy.
The only one that I really like of him, because he'll write a one-off, and I'm like, oh, good.
Oh yeah, which
But
one?
it's-
Like Pilgrim or
No, I don't. I never read Preacher.
Okay.
I don't. It was the Nick Fury Max. Remember the Max publication, Nick Fury in the War?
I love his Punisher Max. Ennis's.
Yeah, I never.
yeah.
The Punisher, it's too revengey for me.
Okay,
So,
that's funny.
but I like, because my favorite guys are like Ed Brubaker and Brian K. Vaughan and any number of people. I like Duggan. Jerry Duggan is writing the Deadpool right now.
Oh yeah.
And he wrote it with Posehn for a while. Posehn wrote
that's
it with
such
him.
a cool job Posehn has had too, and that's awesome. I read Deadpool when it first came out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then fell out. I'm trying to think. Batman was like the only superhero I really kind of stuck with, and then Swamp Thing randomly.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I like.
I never did read. Andy's got. I'm married to a long box, right? That's a dick
Right.
joke. Anyway, so but he will occasionally, like one of the first ones he handed me was an Alan Moore Top Gun.
Oh yeah.
The Top Gun series, and then the next one, because I read those 45 issues.
Yeah.
Then or whatever it was. The next thing he was 75 issues of
wow.
Sandman.
Okay,
And then it was
okay, yeah.
Lucifer, and then it was
Lucifer. Yeah.
Yeah, you would like Lucifer just because it's dark and funny,
Yeah.
and then darker.
Okay, I
So-
do like that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, my logo for Time Suck, there's a little nod to Dr. Manhattan from the Watchmen. Just with the eyes.
I read Watchmen too
Symbols.
early. I feel like, and then I saw the movie, and I like the movie better than the books. I think I
Right.
should reread the books.
Yeah.
Just because. And V for Vendetta, I like the movie
Yeah.
better than the books.
Right, I like that movie
but that's
too.
because they updated it.
Yeah, exactly.
And-
Same thing with the Watchmen. Just they were just able to make it look a little cooler.
They made it look
CGI.
They did a nice job. They did a
did.
real nice
They
job.
did.
And Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I just had Debbie Gutierrez on. She talked about The Walking Dead
Oh, cool,
and
cool,
what
yeah.
I missed about The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Because for me, zombies, I never really got zombies
Right.
until it was explained to me in a very basic way that it isn't about zombies. It's
Right.
about the people around the zombies.
Right.
It's about how humanity deals with something like frickin' zombies.
Yeah, well, I love that. That's what they call survival horror.
Yeah.
I believe like what they call that.
Yeah.
Genre. But exactly. I mean, and I don't mind the show. I do like the
books
book better. I mean, just because they can, you get a little more invested with the characters and stuff, and they can take things a little farther in certain ways. But that's the appeal of that. It's,
Yeah.
like the zombies are.
Yeah, the book is always going to
lose-
be open.
Right, yeah. And the zombies, lose their kind of terror. It's like it is this weird, like where they just kind of keep a consistent level of dread in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because you can't ever totally let your guard down.
Yeah.
But they're not some like vampire type monster that is hyper intelligent. I mean, they're really dumb.
Yeah.
They're just like the big
Right.
the big.
They just
concern is-
become like a thing you have to do. You're like, be aware of zombies.
Right.
It'd be like if you lived in the woods and you would have to be aware of bears or wolves or whatever.
Yeah, it would be like, exactly. A zombie outbreak is no more scary than if, for some reason, bears their population went up by a billionth. And all of a sudden there was just massive herds of thousands of grizzly bears that were very hungry marching across the country. I'd be like, God, these fucking bears are everywhere. Like that would be...
Deal with the bears first, and then we'll answer your question about homecoming.
right.
Yeah. That's fascinating. This has been fascinating, Dan Cummins.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. Everyone, go to timesuckpodcast.com. And you know the rules out there, Rangers. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh, my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?